This episode brought to you by TAUMMHOMS, which is a natural sleep and sound healing portal helping people globally to get to sleep faster and stay asleep longer through TAUMMHOMS.com. That's www.TAUMMHOMS.com.
It's My Right Stuff with your host, Grammy Award-winning record producer and inventor, Toby Wright. My Right Stuff is brought to you by TAUMMHOMS, a natural sleep and sound healing portal available globally at www.taumms.com. That's www.taummmhoms.com. And I'm your announcer, Grinnin' Barrett. Here's Toby.
Hey, I'm Lord Toby Wright, and this is My Right Stuff News. Welcome to the My Right Stuff News. Well, let's get started with some music news. Green Day have a new live album, the BBC Sessions, which features rare recordings from the BBC from 1994, 96, 98, and 2001. The 16-track record collection is available on all digital music platforms now. Well, rapper Juice WRLD's estate is releasing the album Fighting Demons today. The album features tracks from the rapper's astonishingly deep catalog of music that his mother says will see a release throughout the years. Born is the upcoming 41st studio album by Canadian-American singer-songwriter Neil Young, and his 14th with Crazy Horse. Oh, God, congratulations, Neil. That's awesome. A standalone film of the same name will also be released on Blu-ray and will be directed by Young's wife, Daryl Hannah. And now on to film and TV news. Well, the new Netflix reality TV show, Roaring Twenties, is set in Austin, Texas, and it has a diverse cast with a range of sexualities and ethnicities. It's much like the MTV series Real World, but based on what Netflix has released about the show so far, it looks like it's going to be more intimate than its counterpart, focusing on the star's growth rather than relationships and dramas and hookups and the resulting fights, Well, the three-part period drama Anne Boleyn, premiering on AMC Plus this week, showcases the famous doomed queen story, but in a different way. With Jodie Turner-Smith, a British actress of Jamaican descent, in the lead role. We wanted to make sure the world of Tudor Court didn't look exactly like period dramas that we'd seen in the past, says series writer Eve Hedrick Turner. If you heard your friends overseas talking about Bloods, a British medical comedy series, well, get ready, because you're about to know what all the fuss is about. Hulu has acquired the series, which premieres this week, and the story follows a group of paramedics who are not always on their best behavior, but constantly put their differences aside to save lives. Lucille Ball, played by Nicole Kidman, and Desi Arnaz, Javier Bardem, are threatened by shocking personal accusations, a political smear, and cultural taboos. Well, Being the Ricardos is a revealing glimpse of the couple's complex romantic and professional relationship. The film takes audiences into the writer's room, onto the soundstage, and behind closed doors, with Ball and Arnaz during one of the critical productions week of their groundbreaking sitcom, I Love Lucy. Well, let's check out what's in theaters now. A West Side Story. Well, it tells the classic tale of fierce rivalries and young love in the 1957 New York City. This reimagining of the beloved musical is directed by Steven Spielberg. Check it out. Well, the comedy satire Don't Look Up is about two low-level astronomers who must go on a giant media tour to warn mankind of an approaching comet that will destroy planet Earth. Whoa. I think I've seen this one. Wait a minute. So this one is going to be starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, Jonah Hill, Chris Evans, Meryl Streep, and many, many more big names. It hits theaters today, and Netflix on the 24th. Well, let's go check out the world of sports. Well, Formula One ends the 2021 season this week in Abu Dhabi, with Verstappen and Hamilton dead even on points. The championship comes down to this last race, and you don't want to miss this one. Man, there are many rumors about the strategy each team will take. Well, good luck, boys, and please, play fair, play safe. In the Premier League, Manchester City is now atop the table. They play the Wolves this weekend. And second place Liverpool play Aston Villa, and the third place Chelsea play Leeds. Let's go check out the tech and gear news. Well, if you're trying to find a Christmas present for that person who has everything, try Bose frames. The frames are one of those products you have to try to fully appreciate. The concept is you're getting a decent pair of sunglasses with a pair of headphones that don't actually go in your ears. Rather, integrated micro speakers in each arm direct a beam of sound to your ears. That design could be appealing to people who don't like having their headphones on their ears, and also offers a degree of safety for runners and bikers who want their ears open to the world. It's also a nice feature for people who want to discreetly listen to audio and not have anybody know they're doing it. Say, listening is a sport or news events while doing something else. They're certainly great for that. And calls from your phone are really easy to answer on the frames. They're very crisp and clear. There's 4 models, and the prices range from $199 to $250. And this week, Elon Musk introduced Tesla Pi phone to the public. Musk told us that this new device will have a lot of advanced things, and it's easily found in all countries of the world. Well, basically, the device will have high regulation. And that means if you use the device, the network system will be active in forests, mountains, and even if you enter Mars. The only reason for this is that this smartphone will have the ability to receive network from his Starlink satellites. The phone will also be solar powered. Just put it down in sunlight to charge it. Musk also wants to eventually have a brain phone interface from Neuralink. And of course, it links directly to your Tesla. Why wouldn't it? This phone is going to be rumored to start at about $1,200. Well, that's the news that's making the news today, December 10th, 2021. And now over to you, my lord. Oh, hey, Toby. Thank you very much. And welcome back to My Right Stuff, which is a film, TV, sports, music, adventure, and inspirational lifestyle podcast. I'm your host, Lord Toby Wright, and today I have a dear friend and very well-respected music industry veteran, Juanita Copeland. She's a co-owner and studio manager of Sound Emporium Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. But before we meet her, I want to thank you, all of our supporters who stream, download, watch, and support My Right Stuff. Keep spreading the word, my friends. We really, really do appreciate it. And it is working. Be sure to click on our show notes below to follow our link tree for a full list of all the channels we're streaming on, as well as all of our sites and social media platforms. If you'd like to donate to My Right Stuff, please follow our support link. Every single dollar helps support the My Right Stuff crew who make all of this possible. And of course, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, as well as the podcast channel of your choice, so you never, ever miss a single episode. Well, after this episode, please head on over to myrightstuff.com, go to the store tab, and pick up some snazzy merch for those lovely bodies. Well, as I said, today's guest is studio co-owner and manager Juanita Copeland, and she runs Nashville's Sound Emporium Studios, which I think is one of Nashville's top recording studios for sure. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a very warm welcome to my good friend and distinguished guest, Juanita Copeland. Hey, Juanita, how are you today?
I'm doing fabulous, Toby. How are you?
I'm doing great now that you're in my sights.
Aw. I haven't seen you since the Rock and Pod Expo.
I know, which was a great little, it was a surprise for me that you were there. I loved it.
Yeah, that was an awesome little panel, the Women Who Rock panel. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, they have those in that thing, they have those all the time, and it's really cool. And I really liked it that you were the one that showed up to do it with Mistress Carrie, who was another great friend of mine.
Yes, it was awesome. I loved hanging out with her. She was a great MC.
Yeah, she's really, really pro and really great. I love Carrie myself. So anyway, here on My Right Stuff, I like to start at the beginning or so. So did you come from a musical background of any sorts?
Well, I was a band geek. I was in marching band. That was kind of my respite from having to do, you either had to take PE or band. And I loved playing clarinet. And then I actually got into playing oboe in the concert season. So I became a band geek. But I loved music from a really young age. My dad was a traditional country music band, and he would play Hank Williams Sr. as loud as it would go in our house, which I hated it, but he got a kick out of it later in life to tell people that the music I hated as a kid was paying my bills now. So
thanks, Dad.
Yeah, exactly. But I was one of those geeky kids who would take a piece of vinyl and open it up and, read all the lyrics and the liner notes, and I knew who the songwriters were and I knew who the producers were. And I was just really intrigued for that side of it. And when I got into high school, a bunch of my female friends were playing guitar and singing and playing bass. And, I wasn't really into any of that, but I was into the admin part of it. So, I could book them or do their press for them or publicity. And that's kind of how I got my start way back then, which meant I was almost always around men who were in the industry. So That's kind of where my 2 ex-husbands came from.
Oh, hey.
Both guitar players. So, but I've always, that's my tribe. They say your vibe attracts your tribe, and that's my tribe is, all of the music folk.
That's fabulous. Mine too. And well, you first came to Sound Emporium in 1995 to work with for Garth Fundus and Almost Sounds, right? What can you tell me about that period?
Well, actually, right before that, when I first moved to town in 1990, it bears repeating that I worked for Mercury Nashville. And at the time, we had just signed Shania Twain and Billy Ray Cyrus. So I got to ride that train, and I worked there until I came here. And Garth was named by Herb Alpert and Jerry Moss, who you know who they are, A&M Records.
That's right.
He was named to head their new label. After they sold A&M to Polygram, they couldn't own a label for 5 years. And if you know Herb and Jerry, you know that they're music guys. And they really wanted to own another label, so they started Almost Sounds. And so they had never had a toe in country music. So they hired Garth to be the head of the label. Garth had interviewed me when he worked at RCA Records and for a position in A&R administration. And that ended up not working out because he left RCA right after that. But then Herb and Jerry tapped him to run Almost Sounds. So he had kept my resume and he reached out and said, hey, are you interested in coming to work for me? I can't tell you who it's for yet, but just let me know. And about a month later, we had breakfast and he said, do the names Herb Alpert and Jerry Moss mean anything to you? And I about fell out of my chair because all of us, if you were a musician, you wanted to be on A&M. If you were like me, you wanted to work for A&M. Working for Herb and Jerry was truly one of the highlights of my career. And we started here in the Sound Emporium because we didn't have offices. And I came here in 1995 and that's how it started.
Gotcha. Well, that's great. And so you were the accountant to begin with, right?
Well, I actually was the operations manager for Almost Sounds. And then I switched when Almost Sounds stopped, I still did production assistant work for Garth. And then I came on after that as the studio manager.
Gotcha. All right. And then so how'd you make the transition from accountant to studio manager and then to co-owner as most recent?
All of that happened. We've actually gone through 3 ownership changes in the last 10 years. And when Garth sold the studio to a billionaire, he ended up gifting us to Lipscomb University. And the fact that I've made it through all 3 of those ownership changes and I'm still standing and we're 4 years in now is, it's been a lot, but Lipscomb is very good to us. They allow us to remain a professional recording studio. They don't interfere with any of the any of the goings on here. They'll tell, my boss will tell people he owns the building, but I own the vibe.
That's fantastic. Okay.
So they put in a brand new console. We have a brand new API legacy access that they put in 2 years ago. Yeah. They asked me, what do you guys need? And I pulled the pie out of the sky, which was a new console, and we got it. But we have been busier. Every year is better than the year before. And that's been going on for about the last 10 years. So we're very, very blessed and very lucky.
Absolutely. So do you hold like engineering and production classes for the students of Lipscomb?
No, what we do is when they have their final exams, and they have a College of Entertainment and Arts there, and they don't really have like, Belmont and MTSU have production degrees, and you can get, they have engineering classes. They don't have that at Lipscomb. They just have a College of Entertainment and Art, and they have an entrepreneurial artist program. Okay. So if they have a final exam, and usually it's on the weekends, they'll come in and, they'll use one of the studios for one of the final exams and have a session. We've done about a dozen of those over the last 4 years.
Oh, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. And, they're getting real world experience. It's not just like looking at a book, because this is a business where books don't really cut it. You have to be in the studio. You have to learn protocol. You have to learn how to behave. And that's one of the most important things that they can learn coming over here, is, there is a way to behave. And if you can't, I'll ask you to leave.
That's right. Well, like I love Sound Emporium, and I grew up at Electric Lady Studios in New York City. Was my first interning job, right? And one of the first things that I learned was how to behave. And there is such a thing called studio etiquette.
Absolutely.
And it's really, really important, especially when you get around the higher up, the higher echelon clients, right? Because they expect a certain professionalism that happened in studios and has been happening, since the 1950s and 60s. And, no millennial is going to change that just for their own liking. So, there is a definite, protocol that happens. And, once you learn that, and I don't know that you can learn it in a university setting, or, there's no way to learn it out of a book. You have to be there. So,
exactly. And, as these students, if they do want to be professional, recording musicians, you don't show up as a drummer. You don't show up as to a session without your drum thrown. You don't. You have to show up prepared. And they had a student probably a couple of months ago that was doing a final exam, and he showed up without his drum thrown. And it's like, dude, that doesn't cut it. You're just going to have to stand there then, because this is just stupid. And of course we had a drum thrown, and we ended up giving it to him. But, there was a point to be made, is you show up, you have to be professional. When you walk in here, this is not playtime. This is the real time is money here.
And it's very expensive too,
exactly.
Like, people are comparing, the studio world to their bedroom, and it's a completely different vibe. Your bedroom sucks for recording, and that's why professional studios were made, first of all. So, because of the acoustics and things, you can't just record in a square box and, think it's going to come out great like a record. Most likely it's not going to.
Right.
But that's why we have acoustically treated rooms. That's why, Studio B, it's a Sound Emporium, is one of my favorites, personally. And it has that sound that, that rock sound that I love so much.
That live drum sound, man. It's badass. And
that's right.
It's a Toby Wright room for sure.
Woohoo! So as a studio owner and manager, from your perspective, how has the music business changed since you've been sitting there on that throne?
Well, honestly, there were probably, I would say 10 to 15 years ago, everybody was worried about home studios. Oh my God, they're going to put, professional recording studios out of business. And I didn't even bat an eye at it, because I know that and you've been here, Toby, that you cannot track an entire band in an open room like our A room or B room at home. You can't. So while a bunch of my, other studio friends were kind of freaking out a little bit, thinking it was going to impact us, It might have got to a little degree, but instead of me freaking out, I just turned 2 of my offices into mix overdub rooms and gave people what they were going to do at home, but yet in a professional environment. Right. So these 2 rooms, our G room and our Z room, they stay booked 80-90% of the time because people don't want to be in their bedroom doing this. It's not professional. You might be able to do it at home, but that was one of the challenges a little over 10 years ago that people, like I said, they were just freaking out about it. And we had ebbs and flows, 2008, 2009, when the recession hit, it was tough here. And that's when Garth Fundis decided to sell the studio. Okay. It was really rough. If you had one session that was like an extended session cancel, you were in big trouble. And we had that happen to us when the artist Will Hogue got into a really bad wreck, and he was booked for a month here in our A room.
Oh, wow.
And when he canceled, it was a punch in the gut. But he did end up coming back in 2009 and finished his record. Thank God he lived, because it was touch and go. We were very scared. But the impact of that, if we had that happen today, people would just rebook. But back then, there were, fewer and far between artists that were booking a month at a time. Right. And that's the other change that's happened is it used to be people would book, a month, 6 weeks, 2 months to do records. And now they're booking 4 days, 5 days, and things are just being done so much quicker. And part of that is that, people are mixing at home, they're mixing the box.
Sure.
So, it's changed. Everything has changed a lot. I hate to say this, but it's the truth. I don't listen to the radio, to terrestrial radio. I just don't. Right. Because I don't identify with a lot of that. And some of those people are clients and I love them dearly, but the type of music that I like is to me a little more meaty.
I gotcha.
So, but you know what I mean? It's like, I just don't, the radio is not where I find things that I think are good. So.
Yeah, especially these days, I'm with you on that one for sure.
I can't. And most of the stuff, I couldn't even tell you who the people are. And I mean, I'm very lucky. And I'm a bit snobby in that matter because if it's good, it's good. But if it's some of the stuff that other people might think is really good, and I just scratch my head, I have to say to my staff that are younger than me, hey guys, what the hell is this?
Right.
Or,
exactly.
One of the things we do when anyone books is my staff will Google them, because a lot of the time, if it's an older artist, they won't know who it is. Right. Like when Dwayne Eddy was in here with Robert Plant a couple weeks ago, some of my staff had no idea who he was. And it's like, what?
Okay. Well, thank God for Google, right?
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. In fact, they Googled you. One of them did when you called one time.
Uh-oh.
And they came in and said, oh, my God, Toby Wright's legit. I'm like, well, duh.
So do you get a bunch of weird people calling the studio and pretending to be, all that, and then there's nothing behind it? Or
absolutely. And immediately. It's the type of people that over and over and over and over want to just keep telling you how great they are, or dropping names, I mean, you and I are talking, we're dropping names for a reason, but these people are they're trying to impress you, and we call them civilians. I can spot them a mile away. And they'll eat up your time like that, and you'll just, pretty soon half the day's gone and you're like, what the hell? But
exactly. I got you. Okay. Waste of time. So after hours, you also provide a production assistant service to several well-known Nashville producers, artists, and engineers. Can you tell us about those duties and who might you represent?
Oh, yeah. Well, Sturgill Simpson is the one that's keeping me the busiest these days, because Sturgill is, he's an artist in his own right. And I even got my first Grammy from working on A Sailor's Guide to Earth for him. But what I do is thank you.
Congratulations.
He hires me to do all the contracts for him, the AFM contracts, because everything he does usually goes through the union. I'll do the budgets for him and do any forms he needs for the union, like the low budget master forms or any of the other, signatory forms. And then I'll put together all the label copy and the liner notes, which is also what I did when I was at Mercury. So it's a lot of fun because it keeps me kind of plugged into the creative side a little.
Right.
And on Garth Fundis's projects, like Trisha Yearwood and some of the other people that he produces, I will actually hire the players. And of course, most all of that is done here. With Sturgill stuff, he does everything at other studios. He did a couple of records here, and that's how I met him, but he prefers to work at other studios. So I still do his, my side hustle is the production assistants, and I love working with him.
That's great. Anybody else? Or just him?
Well, pretty much. Chad Carlson, and I don't know if you know Chad. Chad was involved with Taylor Swift in the beginning of her career, and he's also a songwriter in addition to being a producer, and he does a lot of custom projects. He has a guy named J.B. Goujon from France that's like the French version of Garth Brooks, and he's sold like a bazillion records over there, and and he works with a band called the Buckleys out of Australia. And he does a lot of demo sessions and things like that. So I've worked with Chad now for about 13 years, doing all of his production stuff too.
Oh, that's great.
And then I've got, there's musicians every now and then when they know that I do that, they'll reach out and ask for my help. And of course, I'll help them.
Right. Of course, because you're that kind of woman.
Yeah. And I'm kind of built in.
That's right. That's right. So who are some of the most memorable and fun artists that have recorded there?
Well, of course, the top of the list is going to be Robert Plant.
I know.
That man, he's just such an amazing human. He's so funny and self-deprecating, and he does call himself the Golden God,
Right.
in tongue in cheek, but I would say Robert, and I actually told him that working with him was the pinnacle of my career. And I'm not going to tell you what he said back to me because I had to then smack his arm and say, you behave. But I'm sure you can figure it out.
I can think of several things.
Yeah. But then I would say when Bob Dylan came here and recut Hard Rain.
Oh, wow.
Meeting him was, I swear to you, when I walked because they don't call the studio manager into the control room unless there's a problem.
That's right.
And his manager came out, and I was in the kitchen on the phone with another client, and I had the phone up to my ear, and I see his manager walking toward me, and I just hung the phone up. I didn't even say goodbye to the person. I just hung the phone up. And he said, Mr. Dillon wants to see you in the control room. And Toby, my heart sank. I went, oh God, oh no, what has happened? Right. And I walked in there, and he's leaning over the console, and he looks up, and I swear to you, there was a light that came down from the heavens because it's Bob Dylan.
Right.
And it's like, whoa. And I walked in, and he looked up at me, and he said, you want to be in my video?
Wow.
And my eye got popped out of my head, and he was cutting a video, and he had like all these different cameras that they were using. Okay. And he said, there's too many men up in here. I need a woman. He said, you're going to play my girlfriend. So I was standing to his side, and they were all listening to the playback, but that was pretty cool. And, we were told, just let him be, don't bother him, which, we're told that about everyone, and we do leave people be.
Right.
But at the end of it, I didn't know that he has really bad arthritis in his hands. So when I went to shake his hand and thank him, he gave me a fist bump. So that was probably one of the coolest things ever, is getting a fist bump from Bob Dylan.
Absolutely.
But the funniest story, it goes back to Robert, but let me also digress and say that Alison Krauss is no slouch herself. And, Allison's worked here for 20 plus years and is just such an amazing human. But me and Allison and Robert were standing in the lobby watching Obama when they were inaugurating Obama. And you remember the scene where they showed all the people screaming, at the Washington Mall. And so Robert and I are standing there, and Allison's on the other side of him, and he has his hands crossed, and he looks up and he said, oh, well, I haven't had that kind of screaming since I wore my tight trousers at Madison Square Garden. And I just died. And I said, Robert, is it always about you? And he goes, well, yeah. It's that kind of quips. I mean, he's just so quick with them, and he's constantly doing that. And right now, as we speak, we have Little Big Town in our A room. They did their Nightfall record here, and they are amazing humans as well. And they actually came here with their buddy Pharrell back in 2016. You know, he did their Wanderlust record.
Right.
And I mean, he's another great guy. He locked out the whole studio. He and T-Bone Burnett are the only two people that have actually done a lockout where they don't want anyone else in the studio when they're here.
Right.
But Pharrell had a security person at the front, security person at the back, and nobody could come in unless they had been vetted. And he was super cool, super cool.
Awesome.
So we do all kinds of genres.
Yes, you do. Well, you're a recording studio, so I would imagine you would have to, right? You
Yeah.
know?
And I mean, people just automatically assume because we're in Nashville, it's country, but that's the least of what we do, really. You know, we do R&B, we do rock. You know, Pop Evil was here for 6 weeks doing their self-titled record that they had a number one song with Waking Lions off that. So
right.
Take it.
Exactly. That's a good feather in the cap for Sound Emporium. I like it.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah. We love those.
So I love the stories about, about all the funny stories about the good people. Now, I'm going to ask you about, there's probably a few who you would not invite back. You have some stories about them, and no names if you don't want to. But.
Well, I will tell you this. We did have a person that is, he's in the rock world, but he kind of sticks a toe in the country world. He spilled a big bottle of Jack Daniels right next to the console, partying with one of our bands that was here. He wasn't here as a client.
Okay.
And I almost had to kick him out physically. But believe it or not, it is the R&B females I've had to kick out 2. And one male rapper who has a very high profile situation here in Nashville. He's gone to prison a few times, but I learned something about rappers that they put women in 2 categories. You're either like their moms, where they're going to respect you, or you're a hoe and they don't respect you.
Okay.
And, so this guy trashed my Z room, and I basically said to him, I will put my size 9 up your ass. And he said, oh, Miss Juanita, you gangsta, you scare me. And this is a guy who he was going to the penitentiary the next day.
Oh, wow.
And I was so mad at him because he trashed that room, and I just don't tolerate it. This is sacred space.
Agreed.
This is a place where people come to create.
That's
and so he was one, and we had a very famous, she's actually going to be at the Bridgestone soon. She's an R&B artist, and I basically had to tell her, you're not ever working here again. And she was being produced by one of our clients, but
okay.
I don't tolerate that crap. And we had another female rapper that I actually had to kick out of the studio. The first day she was here on a 4-day run, her producer is a client of ours.
Okay.
And she got so hammered and she threatened Skylar. And I think actually it was your session. Do you remember that? It was your session.
It was my session.
It was your session.
I remember it very vividly. That's why the question.
Yes. Yeah. She got kicked out, and her producer paid for all 4 days, which rightfully so, dude, because I can't rebook it last minute like that. But yeah. And we every now and then we had a white rapper too, who's right now he's having great success. One of his friends was play fighting, and took a big old gouge out of our wall about that long with a big knife, and I made him fix it.
Whoa, okay. Play fighting with a knife. That's, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, they were all hammered out of their mind, and it's a really good thing that something worse didn't happen.
Amen to that. That's a little crazy, but okay. Whatever.
Yeah. And we had 2 white rappers get in a fight about 2 months ago, and it made it onto YouTube. They actually got in a fight in our parking lot.
Sweet. Okay.
They were fighting over a producer, but that didn't have anything to do with it. But we did lock the door and lock them outside, because we have that ability. I have a panic button in my office and at the front desk, and we can lock the front door. If someone's acting the fool out there and we don't want them back in, we hit a button and locks the door. It's like,
that's great. That's good. It never pays to have, or it always pays to have great security on hand just in case.
Well, and we have cameras outside, of course, never inside because it's nobody's business what goes on in here.
Amen.
But the guy that started the fight, he had a videographer there, and the police said, "Hey, we're going to need to see the footage." And he said, "Oh, my camera wasn't on." And the cop pointed up to the camera up above him and said, "Oh, well, that one's on. I'm sure we'll get good footage from that."
Perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure that guy just lied because the red light was on and the cop saw it.
Well, exactly. Well, and he, it was a staged thing so that they could each get street cred. And one guy got a big old black eye out of it. So I think it got out of hand, but whatever.
Yeah, there's a little street cred for you.
Exactly. Black eye.
Let's step away from all that nonsense for a minute and move on to something I love about you, which is the freedom that you allow yourself to be a roller skater.
Oh, heck yeah. I did rec league roller derby for a while, but those girls are too mean. So,
all right. So wait. So is this just a fascination or just a source of exercise or dance or like where's your heart in the whole roller skating thing?
I started skating when I was 5 years old, and it was kind of like an escape for me. And literally now when I roller skate, it is my wheeled meditation. And I get lost in the music, and it's roller boogie. It's skating. You're not just, I'm not just, I'm skate dancing, and it's my shit. I love it. It's a release for me. Now I have not been able to do it as much because of COVID. So I go out to the parks, which I was in a park yesterday, roller boogieing, but awesome. It is just, I love it. It's a way that the music moves you. I've always loved dance, and dancing on skates, even better.
That's excellent. So do you have a favorite song you skate to? Or a favorite artist?
I love pretty much any throwback R&B. You get me some old Rick James, The Time. All that kind of stuff. The old Prince, I'm talking pre-Purple Rain. The old stuff.
Right.
I love that stuff. And and the Gap Band and, Kool and the Gang and all that stuff.
So a 70s R&B funk girl.
Yes, I love the funk,
you say.
I saw Prince open for Rick James in 1979.
Oh man, okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I was into the funk and Parliament Funkadelic and all of that. I was into all of that before, I remember being the only white girl at a Parliament Funkadelic show when I was a kid. I snuck in, my mother would have killed me. But I loved that stuff. But on the other hand, I also love to skate to Rage Against the Machine. I mean, they're badass, and I like my roller skating to the rock stuff too, but it has to be the right stuff.
Yeah, I guess, my right stuff would be perfect. But anyway, just being a silly guy. So, all right. So now what about the competitive side of skating? You mentioned the roller derby. So tell us about the roller derby, because I don't know that my audience really understands what roller derby is.
Well, back in 2012, and I think you remember this, I had a pretty shitty stalker situation.
I remember it, yeah.
This guy that I went out with, he wanted to kill me, and he, did a bunch of damage to my cars and ran me off the road and did all this stuff. Right. Well, when I got on the other side of that, I had always been fascinated with roller derby, which the stuff here is flat track roller derby. It's not like back in the day where it was bank track. This is all flat and it's on cement.
Okay.
And we are sponsors, the Sound Emporium are sponsors of the local roller derby team here, the Nashville Roller Girls. And so we would always go to the games. Well, they had a table set up that said, "Do you like derby? Why don't you join us for the recreational league, just for fun?"
Yeah.
So I did it, and it was the best workouts I've ever had in my life because you're doing everything on skates.
Right.
And it was so much fun. And then one of my really good friends that skated with me got hip checked by a girl because, you're going around in circles and you've got groups of girls that are blockers and then you've got groups of girls that are jammers. And they're the little ones are the ones that they do the jams and they score the points, and the other people are trying to block them from scoring. And my friend was the jammer.
How do you score
you
points?
You go around the rink.
So then if you pass the other team, you score a point or two? Okay, cool.
Exactly.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah. Okay. So she was the jammer, and this girl was she wasn't having it. She hip checked her. My friend went flying across the space that we did all the practice in, and she broke her leg in like 5 places. And I said, nope, I'm tapping out. Yeah. And I don't have anybody here as a backup. I don't have anybody on my farm as a backup. So I was doing it just for fun. And that kind of brought it a little too real for me. And I said, I'll support them. I'll still do my roller boogie, but I'm not doing the rec league anymore.
I got you. Well, when things are dangerous, you just got to step aside, and.
Well, absolutely. And, when you get of a certain age, you don't bounce as well as you used to.
I know the feeling, believe me.
Yeah.
Yes, you don't bounce back
you don't bounce, period. You just go thud. It's just a thud.
And that's fantastic. Sometimes it's also followed by blood.
Yeah, well, funny thing is that back in 2019, I was doing my roller boogie and, normal roller boogie stuff.
Right.
And I fell, didn't think anything of it, walked around on my leg for 10 days, and I broke it in 2 spaces. Didn't even know. Had no idea.
How's that possible? Wasn't a compound fracture, obviously.
No, it was hairline fractures, but I had 2 breaks in my leg. Had no idea.
Oh, man. Well, you better take care of them legs, girl.
Yeah,
Only 2 you got.
That's right. But heck fire, I just soldiered on. And when I went to the ortho, she was like, have you been in pain? I said, well, a little bit. No. She said, you have 2 breaks. And she brings up the x-ray, and I went, holy crap.
Wow.
Oops.
Yep, exactly. So what'd you do to get better? Because you can't really do anything.
I had to stay off it, which was the hardest thing. I had to wear a boot and stay off of it and all that crap.
Yep.
But,
all right, well.
I'm still here.
You're a tough old girl. Come on now.
That's right. That's exactly right, damn it.
Well, so now on to something that makes you a little bit more tough, but loving at the same time, animals. I know you have a big, big heart for your animals and your farm. So can you please tell me about your farm and the animals that you have there and any, just tell me about that. And then I'll ask questions.
Yes. Well, when I was 8 years old, I took on the Humane Society in the town that I grew up in Huntsville, Alabama, because of how, they were not the Humane Society at the time. They were called Animal Control. They had a horrible dog pound is what it was called. And I was just horrified by what I saw. So at the age of 8, I ended up getting enough signatures on a petition to get them to build a new facility. And that kind of launched my love of advocacy for animals. Okay. And I have a big mouth, might as well use it for something good. So I've been in rescue and advocacy since I was 8 years old. And about 6 years ago, I started volunteering with Animal Rescue Corps here in Nashville. I'm lucky that their national warehouse is here in Lebanon, which is right outside of Nashville. Right. And they do some amazing work. They go into these horrible situations where you've got hoarders or backyard breeders, and they take in hundreds and hundreds of dogs. And some of these dogs have never known a human touch, Oh,
wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, and I volunteer for them, and I have rescued pigs for many years. I was on the board of a potbelly pig sanctuary, but I'm kind of at my limit with my pigs. I don't want to get any more because it takes a lot of work. Right. And my pigs they get to be pigs. I have 4 acres, so they get to live in the pasture and live in the barn. They don't live in my house, which that's the first question people ask me. Right. Oh, are your pigs in the house? Hell no, they're pigs.
Exactly.
But, it's always been a passion of mine to help the animals because, they can't help themselves a lot of the times, and we have to be their voice. Right. And, I'm very active with the Sea Shepherd Conservation Society. I love Captain Paul Watson and what he does because, as he says, when the seas die, we die. That's and, right. We gotta do better, man. And, if you can't, everyone can help in some way. If you can't, volunteer, then foster. If you can't foster, then donate. If you can't donate, then write a letter, sign a petition. Everybody has the power to do something to help.
That's right. Absolutely. So is your farm a rescue type farm?
Yes, all my animals are rescues, but that's their permanent home. I have 8 rescued potbelly pigs, 4 rescued rabbits, and 3 rescued dogs.
Oh, excellent. Okay. And it's a nonprofit type of foundation?
Well, mine is not a business. It's not a business now. Animal Rescue Corps is nonprofit, but mine is just my personal love. So, it's awesome. Not a business. It should be, but it's not.
Right. I got you. But you are involved in some other foundations, like the Good Guy Foundation, right?
Oh yeah. Well, the Good Guys Foundation is a foundation that I started with one of my police officer friends. Sergeant Henry Particelli, and he was a Canadian country music star back before he became a police officer.
That's fabulous. I want to hear him sing.
Yeah, he's an awesome guy, and I met him a few years ago, and we started the Good Guys Foundation after Officer John Anderson was killed here in Nashville, and I saw Sergeant Particelli perform this song called "We Are the Good Guys," and originally, I saw John Anderson's 18-month-old son that was standing up in a seat at his funeral, and something moved me, and I thought, oh, you know what? Maybe we could release that song and raise some funds for for this kid for his college fund or whatever. And it ended up that we went beyond that and started the foundation. All the proceeds of that song, and there's another one that he did called Your Name that he wrote after the George Floyd murder. Right. And he's very trying to present a positive image of police officers because, there are a lot of good ones, but there are some bad ones and they need to go.
Amen.
But our foundation benefits the families of fallen police officers and also police officers that have experienced career-ending injuries in the line of duty.
Excellent. Okay. Well, that sounds like a great foundation to be a part of for sure.
Yeah, we helped 11 families last year.
Oh, that's great. Very proud of you guys.
Thank you.
So how can any of our audience get in touch with you to help out or to donate to any of these foundations? Well,
and if they want to hear any of the songs that Henry has recorded, we are the Good Guys. thegoodguysfoundation.org. And they can, or you can even, if you do a Google search for Henry Particelli, you'll see the videos come up. And he did a video here at the studio for Your Name, and it is amazing. And you have to watch it till the end, though. But there are links on thegoodguysfoundation.org. There's a link to buy the song, and every bit of it, he's donated all of his royalties to the foundation for that song. And the song Your Name, we tried to get some traction with that, but believe it or not, people were afraid of it. They were afraid to present police officers in a positive light. And when we were videotaping, there are a bunch of off-duty police officers in the video, and we were out on Belmont Boulevard holding signs up with positive statements, and people were driving by, and Henry was the only one in uniform, and they were saying, "F you, f the police." Oh, I was horrified. I'm like, wow. And, but anyway, if they want to support the foundation, they can go to thegoodguysfoundation.org.
That's fabulous. Thank you for that. And I'm sure that, some of them will, and I hope they will. So are you involved in some other animal rescues that you can speak with us about?
Well, the Animal Rescue Corps, of course. Right. The other volunteering that I do is for a live hospice, which is for the human part of our world, helping people transition. That's been something very near and dear to my heart after I lost both of my parents within a year of each other.
Okay.
I think that, our hospice here, I don't know if you're familiar with Alive at the Bluebird, they will bring some songwriters in, and yes. They'll have songwriting rounds that actually benefit a live hospice.
Oh, that's fabulous. So how long have you been a member of that?
For about 8 years now.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and I just, because of COVID, it's changed the way that we're able to volunteer. But in the last, I guess it was last month, we had someone whose dog was sprayed with skunk. And and this dog was the constant companion of the man he was actively dying. And all he wanted was that dog on him. Well, they wouldn't let the dog jump up on the bed because the dog had been sprayed by skunk. No other volunteer would step up. Got the dog, took him to the Dizzy Dog Wash and washed him off and took him back. And his owner was able to pass away with the dog on the bed the next morning. So it all worked out. And then we had another family. The man was only 36 years old and found he had a stomach ache and thought he just had stomach ache. And he had stage 4 cancer. And it has spread through his whole body. And the only thing he was worried about, Toby, when they asked him, what are the things that you're concerned about? He had a minivan that his family used because he had a wife and 3 kids. And he said, I'm the one that works on the van. What are we going to do about the van? So me and some friends of mine that are, one of the friends owns Auto Pro in Franklin, Brentwood. They donated their mechanic and we donated time and we picked up his minivan, took it down there, got it fixed, and took it back to his home. And he was literally in the last hours of his life, and his wife was able to tell him the van's taken care of, and he died literally within the hour. Oof. Those are the kind of things that matter. They matter. So it's important to me.
You're choking me up.
Aw. Sorry.
Oh, no, it's good. It's good. It's emotion, and emotion is always good. And
well, it really is. And you know what? Each of us can make a difference, and it's just someone just taking the time to do a little gesture like that. You never know what it's going to mean to the other person. And,
absolutely.
I'm sitting here in front of you in the music industry because someone took the time to tell me, be who you are. Be proud of who you are. And if they don't like you, them. And you know who that was that told me that?
Who?
You do. Ann Wilson.
I knew it.
Ann Wilson. And she set me on this path. And those words, really rang true to me because I didn't think I mattered. I didn't think that, I could do anything good. And I had no positive female role models in my life. Where I grew up, You were supposed to go find your man and get your gingham curtains for your trailer or whatever. And that wasn't my path. I didn't want to do that. But I also met with a whole lot of resistance because people wanted you to follow that path. And not me.
I'm certainly glad you didn't, because we probably wouldn't know each other if you had followed that path.
Well, exactly. And, what makes me good at what I do is that I'm a fan. I'm a fan of good music, and I know how important this is. And, I'll fight till my dying breath to make sure that people have a sacred, amazing place to record. It's important.
Well, that's why I keep coming back for sure. Because I love you and I love the Sound Emporium as well. So, and all the things that it stands for. Because that's, been one of the hardest things in my life is to find a great studio that has the moral ethics that I do, that I think I do.
Oh, absolutely. And it's important. And, the funny thing is that people, as a woman in this business, I'm just me. I'm not trying to be a certain thing, but there's a Billboard article that was written about me and it said, don't ask me to make your coffee because I won't. I don't know how to make coffee. Sorry, just because I have boobs doesn't mean I need to be the one making the coffee. Amen. I don't drink it, so why would I make it?
Right.
But it's, it's really important that people come in here, and I have a staff that knows how to make the coffee.
That's right.
I don't know, just because I'm the woman, don't think that I have to do that. But because I am a woman, if I'm tough, the B word gets thrown around.
Oh,
but
I know.
I have a very high bar that I expect here. That's what we give our clients, and that's what I expect of my staff. And if they can't hang with it, they don't last here very long.
That's absolutely true. And I know that you've raised some of Nashville's best engineers, and I've had
yes, I'm very proud.
The pleasure to work with 3 or 4 of them. and they're fantastic, and they have a perfect blend of what is needed to serve and protect the clientele that's in the studio at the moment. Just like we were speaking of earlier, right? With that experience,
exactly.
with that
and
with the
you mentioned. Right. You mentioned the word protect, which is part of what we do here. When you're in our walls here, when we're in the building, we protect you because you don't need outside distractions. This is a creative space. It's not a space for people to come and bug you or to harsh the vibe, because the vibe is so important, and people don't, if they're not in this world, they don't understand how important that is.
That's right. That's right. So I got one last one for you. Here on My Right Stuff, we like to play a little game sometimes, and I know that you're going to be up for this one.
Oh boy! Woo!
Woohoo! So hand out the chess pieces. No, I'm just kidding. So what I'd like to know is what you or your staff think might be your hidden talents. Do you have some hidden talents that you can share with us?
Well, let's see. My hidden talent, probably as a decorator.
Really?
Because
okay.
I get asked probably at least once or twice a month. I get people asking me to come and decorate their studios for them.
Wow. And that's, and I mean, I've been to Sound Emporium. I know of the decor, and I know of all the kitschy things that you go out and you find.
Yeah, so that's all me. Yeah.
So is it your ability to be patient and go, to these places and find all the wild stuff that you bring home?
I think so. And having the eye for it, because,
right. Okay.
That's and I never realized that was a talent. And until I've had, like I said, I get at least one or two people a month asking me if I would come and help them with their studio. And I'm like, no.
Right.
No,
right.
Because that's what we have here.
That's exactly right. So just come on over to Sound Emporium.
That's right. You want to be in a cool studio that looks great and has a queen's throne, you come here.
And it certainly does. I love that throne. It's fabulous. So maybe we'll see that on our guided tour.
Yes, you will.
All right. Excellent. And is there a little history behind that throne?
Yes, actually, one of our former, he's actually a client. His name's Robert Logue. You may know him. He was in Royal Court of China.
Right.
And he owned I can't remember what the name of his business was, but they had like a store up top, and then downstairs they had like a little area where people would perform, and he did video shoots and photo shoots. And that chair was part of his downstairs where he did the video and photo shoots. And when he sold the business, I think it was Dark Raven Emporium, I think is what it was called.
Okay.
He put it on Facebook, and I saw it literally within 3 seconds of him putting it up. And I messaged him and said, I need this chair for the studio. Nice. Because Buddy Cannon, who is a very well-known producer that produces Willie Nelson and Kenny Chesney, among others.
Yep.
He had jokingly said he wanted a throne for the studio.
Okay.
So when I saw that, I thought, oh, this is perfect. And within 5 minutes, Robert had all these people offering him a lot more than what he had posted it for. But because he had worked here back in the day, and he knew me, his sister was my next door neighbor. So, so he decided to go ahead, and not only did he sell it to me, but he delivered it for me. And it has been in many video shoots here. It's been in many photo shoots. It's been on the cover of people's albums.
Yep.
So, and most recently, Robert Plant sat in it, and I had his assistant take a picture, and Robert didn't like the way his hair looked, so she wouldn't send it to me. But it is a throne, and it sits in the lobby for all to enjoy.
I love that chair too. It's got an incredible vibe when you sit in it too. It's like I can feel
absolutely
the history.
It's super cool, and it came from. Robert said it was like a Hollywood prop place. It came from California, so there's no telling what the other history of it is that we don't even know.
Right, and how many cheeks have sat there and
don't
enjoyed
you know it? God knows what else.
So what are you up to now? What's next for the Sound Emporium? What's next for Juanita?
Well, we've been busier than ever, and believe it or not, with COVID, because people couldn't tour, we had our best year ever financially last year. And we continue to make improvements in the rooms. We put 2 sets of ATCs in the A room. We've got ATC 110s and ATC 25s.
Awesome.
We just put a new headphone system up in the B room, your favorite room.
Yep.
And we bought more pieces of new gear. And that's what we keep trying to do, is buy new microphones, buy new gear, because we just want to keep making things better here. And we are booked solid through the end of the year. And we've already got some big names that are asking for big blocks of time next year. So I'll take it. I'm used to the feast or famine, and we've been in the feast for a while, and I'm trying to squirrel away the dough for when there's the famine.
Right. You have to do that for sure. And I'm glad you've been in the feasting mode. That's wonderful, because you guys, like I said earlier, are definitely one of the best studios. Well, it really does. It really does.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the world famous Sound Emporium. Come on inside. Okay, so this is our beautiful lobby, and of course it's decorated for Halloween. Skylar, wave at the camera. That's Skylar Chuckridge. She's one of my engineers, and the person taking the video that is holding the camera is my chief engineer, Joe Trinicosti. Hi, Joe. Come on in here. So when you come into someone's home, which this is musical home for people, you'll see they'll have a nice big wall of their family. Well, this just happens to be our family wall. Joe, come a little closer. Let's show them a few folks. So here we've got Chris Stapleton and John Mayer. And then you move over here a little bit and you've got John Popper. And then up here is my favorite group shot, which is the last Robert Plant and Allison Krauss. And we've got a bad glare here, guys, so I apologize. But let's focus. Can you get a good shot of Mr. Willie Nelson doing what Willie does best? All right, so let's come down here, and we have 4 studios here. We have 2 little small mix overdub rooms, and the hall that we're coming down is what I call our Cowboy Jack Hall of Fame. This is our founder, Cowboy Jack, one of the most amazing humans that ever walked this earth. Cowboy was so far ahead of his time, and they called him the Pied Piper of Nashville because he drew people to him, drew people to Nashville. Charlie Pride and Don Williams were just a few. So come on in. The room here that we're walking into first was my original office, but when it was my office, we had glass here. So this is our Z studio, and it is a little mix overdub room. And if you'll notice, this is the vocal booth, and I'm going to shut the door for a second. We pay attention to detail here, and as you can see, we have an amazing door that was, we got it at a great place here called Preservation Station. And Preservation Station goes into houses that are being torn down and reclaims anything from them that's usable. And this came out of a 1890s farmhouse outside of Cookeville, and we absolutely love it. So you can do songwriting in here. You can do mixing, overdubbing. We can pretty much overdub anything in there except for drums. So this is our newest room. It is the G Studio. And the G Studio is another mix overdub room. And it was Garth Fundis's office for 20 years. Garth Fundis owned the studio. He came here in 1971 as a gopher and worked for Jack Clement. And then in 1991, he bought the studio. And in 2011, he sold the studio. So this was his office, and we decided to turn it into a mix overdub room and built this wonderful vocal booth here. And this is a very popular room. Both of these rooms are actually really popular. And I think I had mentioned in the interview with Toby that when the whole home studio thing came around, some of my competitors were freaking out a little bit and thinking it was going to take business from us. Well, we pivoted rather than freak out and turned spaces that could be used as mix overdub rooms into mix overdub rooms. So come on and let's go look at some of the big tracking rooms. Oh, and this craziness is my office. That's the side y'all didn't see. the most legendary, because we are now the oldest commercial facility left standing, because everyone else has been knocked down to me. Joe, show them some of the beautiful plaques on the wall. We've got Alabama Shakes and Oh Brother Where Art Thou, and of course the amazing Raising Sand, which won 6 Grammys that year. Okay, so this is our A studio. It is our crown jewel. It is also our only studio that has a private lounge. So if we have an artist like Robert Plant and Alison Krauss, or Alabama Shakes, or Jason Isbell, or any of the above, they can have a little area to kind of chill out and relax in between them doing their thing. And Joe, let's take a little gander at this guy. Everybody knows who he is, right? Carl Sagan. Well, people always ask me, why do you have a picture of Carl Sagan on the wall? When Pharrell was here back in 2016, he rented out the entire studio. It was a lockout for him. And in his rider, it said that he wanted a picture of Carl Sagan on the wall as he came in the room. So when he walked in the room and saw it, he looked at me and said, "You read my rider." I said, "Yes, I did." And of course, we have the artwork on the wall of some very, very special people to the studio. And the funniest story is that when Willie saw his picture, he walked in and looked at it and he said, "Damn, that's got a lot of wrinkles." And this, our little jukebox here, it's not a working jukebox, it's more of an entertainment center, but this Artist of the Week picture gets changed for whoever happens to be here. And it doesn't matter if there's someone well-known or not. Your picture will go right here when you're in the studio, and people love that. All right, let's take a look in the control room. So this is our amazing A room. This is an API Legacy Axis. We had it custom built and it was installed in 2019. And we just recently had new ATC 25s put in, and also we have ATC 110s up in the soffit now, which those are new additions to the room. Last year was a very, very good year for us. So when we have good years, we just reinvest. So this is where the magic happens, guys. But let's take a look at the live room. And we have a cartage person in here, so we'll just wave at him. Ah!
Hello. Hello.
So this is the A room. And as you can see, it is a big, wide, open space. And this room truly is magic because you can have people set up in different areas and there's no bleed. And it's because of the way that Cowboy Jack designed the room. We've got all the barnwood in here, and it kind of softens everything so that magically the sound doesn't travel in between. The instruments don't bleed into each other, which is super important. But come here and let's look at something really cool. This is an echo chamber, a real live echo chamber. Woohoo! I call her Big Mama. So a lot of people, and like T-Bone Burnett and other producers, and Garth Fundus and Chad Carlson, they love this room to use that chamber. And of course we have all of the instruments and everything that you would need to do a Class A type session. And as you can see here, there are a few booths, isolation booths, but you can also build your own with these little jobbies so that you can put a vocalist anywhere in the room that you want them to be. And it just so happens that yesterday they had the vocalist there. But we've got a booth back here, and we call this little booth here a fiddle booth because we usually throw fiddles in there. And the one that he is in back here is where the drums are. Now we're going to walk up and see our B room. And of course, everything on the walls were for projects that were done here. And we have a new Casey Musgraves plaque coming for golden hour. We're very proud of that. And this is our very world famous B room. It is a little smaller than the A room, obviously, and it has a totally different vibe to it, but it also has an API Legacy Plus, and we actually bought this this board from Kenny Alpin of the band Big and Rich, and he's the Big of Big and Rich, and a really nice guy. But we had an Trident 80B in here for many, many, many years, and when it had seen better days and we started having trouble finding parts for it, we decided we needed a new board, and we found this one, and we've been very, very happy. And when we brought this new API in, we moved the patch bay, and it wasn't on purpose. It was because our tech at the time didn't measure properly. But anyway, it ended up working out because we turned the old patch bay room into a vocal booth. And in the studio, space is prime, so you got to use it or lose it. So let's come in here and look at the live room. And this live room is completely stricken, which is, you know, when there's nothing in it. So as you can hear in this room, it's a lot more vibrant sounding. It's got a very vibrant sound. And actually, this is the room that Toby loves. Toby loves to record in this room because of the vibrant live sound. And the drums in here are, to me, the best sounding of any studio I've ever been in anywhere. But I'm also partial. But this room is where Kenny Rogers did The Gambler. REM did most of Document here. They did it in both rooms, but most of it in here. And it has been home to so many amazing records over the year. And when Garth Fundis bought the studio, prior to that, this area that we're in was part of a house. And starting from where the kitchen is now forward was added when Garth Fundis bought the studio in 1991. This was a two-story house that was built in the 30s, and Cowboy Jack lived upstairs, and the downstairs was his studio. When Garth bought it, he did a bunch of renovations, took the top floor out with the intention of making a vocal booth upstairs. We just never got around to it. But this room has been improved and over the years, and to me, it sounds the best it's ever sounded. And we also have made a bunch of upgrades as far as like the headphone boxes and of course the console. But whenever we find a need where we need to reinvest to make something better, we do, because in this business you have to do that, or the word gets around. You know, if you have people that come in and things don't work, they don't want to work there anymore, because they come here for all your gadgets and for your staff, and if the gadgets and the staff don't work, they're going to go somewhere else. And I wanted to show you our Legends wall as our final piece of the tour. And I don't know if Joe's going to be able to show you some of these pictures, but, you know, starting here, we've got Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings. Waylon and Willie did Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys, one of the versions here. And this is one of my favorite pictures because it has Tammy Wynette, Kenny Rogers, and Dottie West. Just amazing. And Billy Sherrill is actually sitting here with them. He came by last month, and we just sat and talked about all kinds of things. And REM, when they did Document, and this actually, they took so many pictures here, they ended up putting it in their tour book that year, which was kind of cool. And I have a copy of it down in the lobby. And of course, we've got Johnny and the very amazing Brenda Lee. And we've got Don Williams here. And my favorite picture of Waylon Jennings getting high in the basement. And then we've got the Stray Cats here with Carl Perkins, who wrote Blue Suede Shoes. And then this fella here, for years, I never knew who that was. And about 5 years ago, I had a call from, 4 years ago, from a lady that wanted to ask me if this picture was taken here. And I said, yes. And she said, well, I'm writing a book about Johnny Hallyday. He was like the French version of Elvis. And he sold something like 50 million records. I have no idea. But now I know who that is. It's Johnny Hallyday. And of course, we've got Whispering Bill Anderson here. And Kenny Rogers again. And this is another one of my favorites. a clean-shaven Willie Nelson with short hair. I love that picture. And then, of course, you've got Andy Williams, which most people won't even know who he is. And we've got Charlie Rich here. And Mary Poppins. I mean, come on. So this is our lovely place, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me here today, and we hope to see you in person.
And thank you for all of that. Well, this has been been an amazing and fun episode, and I loved all the information about Sound Emporium and learning even more about you and your studio and obviously what you're up to now. Thank you, Juanita, for taking the time to be part of this episode of My Right Stuff.
Well, thank you so much. It was great.
I really appreciate you and the studio, and we'll see you again soon.
Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Do you suffer from insomnia, anxiety, depression? Well, our sponsor, TAUMMHOMS, may be able to help you in these areas. TAUMMHOMS, a natural sleep and sound healing portal, helping people globally get to sleep faster and stay asleep longer. You can find this piece of gold at TAUMMHOMS.com. That's www.TAUMMHOMS.com. Well, a big thank you to all of you who stream, download, watch, and support My Right Stuff. And please keep spreading the word, my friends. We really do appreciate it, and it really is working. Also, we now have a merch store that you can pick up some snazzy merch for those bodies. Go to myrightstuff.com, click on the store tab, and don't forget to tag us in any photos with our merch so we can include you in an upcoming episode. Also, please remember to subscribe on YouTube so you never miss an episode. I hear we'll also give you 10 years good luck. Ring that bell and please subscribe. This has been another exciting episode of My Right Stuff. Be sure to tune in next week and every week for yet another adventurous and informative show. I'm your host, Lord Toby Wright. Remember to listen loud, play hard, and keep reaching for your dreams. Good night.
Thank you for watching My Right Stuff. This episode was brought to you by TAUMMHOMS, a natural sleep and sound healing portal available globally at www.taumms.com. That's www.taummmhoms.com.